We are thrilled to have an amazing panel that will talk about what it's meant to build a career in this industry and to help shape the field we all care so deeply about. Please join me in welcoming to the stage Eliisa, Frazier, Haines, and Janie, Barrera.
I need some shelter.
Good luck.
At least an answer. But I know that it's true.
Great. Awesome. It's so great to be here.
Yeah.
I'm Eliisa Frazier. I'm the Vice President of Impact Capital Initiatives at LIIF, Low Income Investment Fund. And I have the immense pleasure of being joined today by Haines, founder of DreamSpring in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and Janie Barrera, founder of LIIF Fund in San Antonio, Texas. Now, these are some powerhouse women. Yes, give it up. Right? Yeah. We are here today to talk about and celebrate their careers, celebrate the work of these incredible rock stars who have built the movement to where we are today and continue to build it for the future. And we're also going to dream together, and we're going to think about lifting more people up and think about the future of the industry. Before we get into some conversation, I'll just share some background about myself. So I've been in the industry about 10 years. And it took me a while to find this place, to find this home. I bumped around a couple of different career paths until I landed in this job, and now have the incredible privilege of taking the big impact visions and dreams that we have for communities and turning them into tangible tactical actions for my CDFI and the teams that I work with. And I'm excited to hear about how Anne and Janie have done that over the years. So let's get into it. All right.
Good.
So, Anne, we'll start with you. And this is a question for Janie, too. How did you find your way to this work? And I'm thinking about that first time you got that job offer to work at a CDFI. What made you say, yes, I want to do this?
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, this has been a journey of passion and purpose. And I think for so many of you in the room who are new to the CDFI industry, and this is your first conference, you are just surrounded by people who are making an enormous impact and live every day with a sense of commitment. And those were some of the characteristics that I had when I first learned about the job that I ended up applying for. I was living in Arizona at the time, in Tucson, and I was looking through the classified ads in the print newspaper, and there was a reference to a microloan marketing program director. And I read it, and it seemed so interesting because it seemed to combine elements of social justice, which was always very important to me, and private industry. And I had just finished my MBA and had moved down to the Southwest. And I actually thought, with a reference to micro, it probably had something to do with microchips, because that was the industry in Tucson that was most prevalent at the time. So I applied for the job. At the time, microloan and microlending was not in the vernacular in the United States. And that is really how I stumbled into it. And after applying for the job and being offered the position, I took the position. And from that moment on, it became part of the fiber of who I am.
That's beautiful. Now, Janie, you also were at a microfinance lender.
I wasn't?
You were?
No, I wasn't. So,
Microchips.
no, yeah. No, as I reflected on this with Anne prior to getting on the stage, you know, we started when the CDFIs movement started. You know, back in the early 90s, they didn't even have a CDFI fund, and so we were just kind of learning how to go along. And I would say in the first 10 years, it was a laboratory. You know, what works and what doesn't work. But to get to your question, you know, my parents had a Mexican restaurant in Corpus Christi for 20 years, and they were great at their service, but terrible at finances. So that always stayed in the back of my mind. And I think most of you know that for 16 years I was a sister, and as social justice has been part of my framework. And a friend of mine in San Antonio said, they're starting this microfinance organization here in San Antonio, why don't you apply? And well, first of all, I didn't know what microfinance was. So, but the sisters that I hung with, they did. They were one of the original investors in actually Opportunity Fund network. And so I got a quick course on how to run Partners for the Common Good Loan Fund, Sister Carol Costin. And I was able to then, I said, you know, this is kind of cool to be able to bring social justice and capitalism together. And so I applied and I got a reject letter. Thanks, but no thanks, because you don't have any banking experience. I have an MBA, but I don't have any banking experience. And so the friend who had told me to apply got a call and said, we're still looking for a director. And she said, I sent you Janie. And so this time they did interview me, and they saw that I had the passion. And that's what I have seen here at this conference. When I look into your eyes and I see your faces, you too have that passion to be able to then spread this movement and help people. And what a great job to have, right? When people come and say thank you for doing your job. I mean, it's just a great feeling to be able to do that and helping others.
That's beautiful. Thank you.
Do you mind if I comment
Yeah, please.
on your reference to a job? Working in this field or in any field is a job. I think what's distinctive about coming into the community development financial institutions field is it is so much more than a job alone. I mean, it is a whole body experience because it's creative, it's challenging, it's hard, it's exciting, and every day is imbued with a sense of purpose. And so if somebody is looking for something that's very confined and defined, yeah, Janie laughs, and we both shake our heads over that, that is not this, because this is an ever-evolving journey, and it's a journey towards greater impact and greater opportunity for all, and that is an incredible North Star for people to be able to coalesce around.
Absolutely. Such a gift. I was earlier in my career looking for a job, and then I found a career, and now I have a calling.
Yeah.
Because it is a whole body experience.
Yeah.
I want to hear some exciting stories from your careers. I want to hear about a significant moment or accomplishment where your vision, your grit, your perseverance really made the difference. Anne, let's hear from you.
There are a couple times that come to mind in particular. When I was working on the feasibility study for the organization that I went on to found, it was very lonely at many times, and it was really difficult. And there were moments when after spending the day out in different neighborhoods, traveling through the Southwest, meeting with entrepreneurs, having meetings with city officials, would come home and then just work on the business plan until the wee hours of the morning. And my husband at the time didn't really understand why I was doing it, and I didn't understand either, because there were moments when it was really, really difficult and hard and lonely, and trying to find other people to believe in the same vision. And I think I share that because it was also very pivotal. There was something that in me felt the need to keep going. And I think it was that passion and that recognition of what could be. And so it was in those early days of just saying, okay, I don't know why I'm doing this, but I'm gonna keep doing it. That ended up being really pivotal for me. And it was an experience that later on I didn't realize that I had brought with myself, but did when there were other moments, other challenges where I wondered, can I do this? But I had the kind of cognitive and muscle memory of you can get through, and you do. And it just creates a greater and greater sense of strength of what's possible. So I think it's been a couple of experiences in particular.
Yeah. Janie, what has kept you motivated when you've faced those tough times, those resources?
I want to follow what Ann was saying as well, because we both started in the early 90s, started from scratch. Started with one employee, in her organization, in my organization. And as $50,000 grant for operations and $150,000 in a loan pool for lending. And now look at us, 30 years later, we're national organizations and, helping hundreds of thousands of small businesses across our country. And to her point, it takes a lot of guts to do something like that. And to surround yourself with people that have the same passion, because you don't do it by yourself. You have to have a staff that also has the ganas, the passion to want to do it. And I know that there's LIIF Fund people out there somewhere, because I can't see you with these lights, but thank you for these 30 years of hard work. But the thing, the one story I would like to tell is I was on the Federal Reserve Board for the Dallas region, Texas region. And I would come to Washington, D.C. to Federal Reserve meetings. We would represent our branch here at meetings. And at that time, I was sitting next to Governor Ben Bernanke. And he was intrigued by microfinance and thought, really, how does that work? So he literally came, this is before 9/11, he came to the Valley of Texas, the Rio Grande Valley. He walked the colonias, the unincorporated areas. We went across the street across the border to Matamoros, had a margarita. And then, he learned firsthand what our work was like. So then he becomes the Federal Reserve chief. And so I thought, wouldn't it be great if he came to San Antonio and we could have a luncheon where we could, sell tickets and make money, because in our world, fundraising 101, right? When I left LIIF Fund, we had to raise $8 million every single year in grants just for operations. That's how big we had gotten. And anyway, so I write a letter, and he says yes. Great, he's going to come to San Antonio. So I'm talking to his staff, and I said what I wanted to do was have a luncheon. And they said, I'm sorry, you can't make money off the Federal Reserve chair. And I said, wait a minute, he was just at OFN. He was a speaker at the conference there. And she said, yeah, because it's part of the conference, it's part of the package. And so I said, did you know we're going to have the very first microcredit conference in San Antonio, Texas? She goes, great. And so we booked it. And he was there for 3 days. The conference was 3 days. You remember that?
I do.
And it was, I don't know, a couple of thousand people were there. And it was right before the crisis. It was during so the media was all there. I was thinking, great, we're going to be able to tell the story about microfinance. No, they didn't care about that. They cared more about the housing, debacle that was about to happen. But those are the kinds of things I share these stories because don't ever let people say no. Think of a way to say yes. The answer is always yes. Now, what is the question, right? And so that's what it's been like for the last 30 years.
Love it. Yes.
Just picking up on that, at the end of the conference, and I was one of many people who did attend, and probably there are a lot of you in the audience who did as well. At the end of the conference, Janie presented Chairman Bernanke with some really big Texas cowboy boots.
And we were on the front page of the newspaper.
Yeah, on the front page of the newspaper. But this aspect of also being involved with the Federal Reserve, during the recession, I had been asked to serve on the Denver branch of the Kansas City Federal Reserve Board. And that was a time for me when I felt such a deep sense of the importance of the work that we're doing and giving voice to people who are in communities that are underserved. And during the recession, low and moderate income families, the Great Recession, that had been so disrupted in every way in their livelihoods. And there are these moments in time where that mission and the work and the passion of everybody come together in a way that really does make all of our communities a little bit better and create a little bit more hope. And this is something about this industry. We have been through so many different times, when there was the bombing of the World Trade Center, when there was a Great Recession, COVID, and at each of those junctures, CDFIs were right there, providing support, being first responders. And I think just the knowledge of being part of a community of compassionate, caring, creative, innovative individuals who are going to find a way to help people navigate is probably some of the greatest inspiration I get every day.
I love it. So that's, I'm glad you mentioned some of the challenging times, because we do need to talk about it a little bit.
Yeah.
We know our industry's facing some existential threats right now, and we know that that means our communities are also facing challenges that will preclude their ability to prosper and thrive. How do you make sense of this time? I know you've been through decades of change in this industry, but what about now?
Do you want to start?
Sure. I mean, I keep telling myself, this too shall pass. We can't let it bog us down. There has to be a way for us to continue to do our work. And I think that there are people with hearts out in our communities that get it as well. Not everybody's out there to make a buck. A lot of people are, but a lot of people also, I've had people tell me, I've made enough money, I now want to be able to share that money. And so it's finding those people to be able to add to your portfolio. That's very important. And sitting at home, worrying is not going to help the situation. It's us getting out there every single day, waking up and being excited about what we do. And it doesn't, it doesn't end, right? There are always going to be challenges. So find yourself a buddy that feels the same way as you. Obviously my gray hair shows that I've been here for a while on this earth. And so I've learned that I don't want to hang around with negative people. I have learned that life is too short. So when I find these negative people, I just leave and move on and find positive people, because it's not worth it to be able to keep that on.
Yeah, I think for me, I feel like every rocky period, every challenge, is cliche. I think it's so true, presents an opportunity. And some of the greatest innovations in our organizations individually in the field have come from times of extreme challenge and adversity. And this is also where, for people who are entrepreneurial, who are problem solvers, there is enormous potential for impact, because it is a tough time. And it's a time that calls for positivity, not naivete, but positivity and creativity, and that focus on, okay, these are the challenges, what are going to be those solutions? And then those solutions that are created have an opportunity to really bring the field along. And so keeping focused on not just the adversity and the difficulty and the challenge, giving space for that, honoring the feelings around that, while also being focused on, okay, what else can we do? What else can I do? What are the solutions going to be? There's one other thing also for me. There's a quote that was attributed to Churchill, although I'm not sure he actually said it, but I think about it a lot, and that is, When you're going through hell, keep going.
So what's that other saying? Never let a disaster go to waste or something?
Right, never let a good crisis go to waste. Yeah.
So, for example, at LIIF Fund, at Katrina, what did we do? We set up a disaster fund to help for people that needed the help. And now with the fires in California, there's a disaster fund for that. The floods in the middle part of Texas, there's a disaster fund for that. And so people rally for those things. When I said earlier, right, to find those people, they come in and they bring the funds to you. They find the best, and that's the other thing too, is that you've got to follow up with what you do. What you say, that's your reputation. You've got to do what you say you're going to do. When we first started LIIF Fund back in 1994, I had a board member that said to me, Janie, you can plan all you want. Because remember, we had to start from scratch. Get the policies in place, get the 501c3 in place, get office space, hire people, all that kind of stuff. But she told me, God rest her soul, she's passed away. She said, Janie, if you don't make a loan, nobody's going to believe you. And so that's what we did. You plan all you want, but you better also, get your act together and do what you said you were going to do.
So you've both been in the industry for over
30.
3 decades, 30 years or so. I'm interested in hearing the notion that things, there's many crises and we can put them to good use. What is different in the industry today from maybe when you started that you think creates some of those opportunities and conditions for us to weather through the challenges right now?
I think we've developed so much knowledge collectively over the years, trial and error, being willing to share those experiences that have worked well and emulate them with each other, and also being willing to share those things that have not worked well or big mistakes or great failures, because that contributes to a pool of shared knowledge that can help any of us sort of accelerate our own growth curve. When Janie and I started in the early 90s, we both were under the impression that we could take the international microfinance model and apply it to the United States. And she and I were both chasing the idea that within 5 years, by making $500 loans, we could grow our portfolios to the point where the portfolio revenue would more than 100% cover the cost of operations. And so we were chasing self-sufficiency for years and years and years. And she would say on her tombstone, and I think this is what's going to be on my tombstone too, we've reached self-sufficiency. And as it turns out, we did at DreamSpring during the pandemic. But since then, our self-sufficiency has gone way down again. And I look at it differently, and I think I look at that as one of many things very differently. Early assumptions are not necessarily the same assumptions now because they've been informed by the experience of the field, by each of your experiences, and by all the ebbs and flows of successes, trials, tribulations, growth, and impact, and the technology, which has significantly influenced and should influence how we continue to grow scale of impact in the communities we're committed to.
Yeah, it was the PPP loans that made us self-sufficient. And we were able to help so many people through that time. But the other, I think, too, is associations that are out there, like those of you hopefully are members or know of NALCAB, the National Association of Latino Community Asset Builders. I guess there are people here from NALCAB. So these organizations also are thinking about best practices. How can we improve what we do every day? And so it's, again, surrounding yourself with people that want to help. And then also making sure that your own organization has a good, strong balance sheet. I would say, if you were to ask me the question, what was one of the biggest mistakes that I made, and that was not helping our balance sheet in terms of having our own assets. My philosophy was, let's get 95% of the dollars that we get, let's put it out in loans. Well, guess what? When you get to be so big, all of a sudden you're upside down because your portfolio is bigger than or equal as your debt, because you know how microfinance works. You borrow money to re-lend it. And so thank God for the McKinsey Scott Awards that came around, unsolicited. All of a sudden, 10 million or 50 million we dropped in your pocket. Thank you very much. And at that point then I said, okay, here's our chance to start our own, make sure that our balance sheet was where it needed to be. So that's why we're one of the strongest, them are one of the strongest CDFIs and got the award last night, because of the fact that we learn from our own mistakes. We also implement the things that we teach our customers, right? We teach our customers, let's build your assets. Well, we had forgotten to do that in the not-for-profit. So we needed to do that as well. So it's a whole balancing act, the capitalism and the social justice part, the disbursement of funds and keeping your balance sheet. All of that is a holistic approach on how we need to grow our organization so that 30 years from now, we're still here.
Awesome. So what are you seeing then, looking towards the future? What are the green shoots? What are the things that are getting you inspired? Maybe some things you noticed at the conference this week that are giving you hope.
Do you want to go first?
Go ahead.
I was thrilled to hear at the opening plenary that 700, I think, new participants are here at the conference. And that is just wonderful, because that is part of the future of the industry. I'm such a firm believer, which is also why I'm retiring from DreamSpring this year, in the importance of new energy, new vision, new ideas into organizations, into movements, into industries. And I so encourage all of you, whether you're veterans of community development organizations, or you're dipping your toe into this industry, or you have a role and you're excited and maybe a little daunted as well. To me, absolutely, the future of what's going to happen within this industry and where it can go is going to be with all of you. And that gives me so much excitement, inspiration, and heart, because no matter what, you've got it, and you will. And don't ever forget that.
Love it.
I would say that we've got to stay again in the middle, right? Even the fact that we can be red or blue, Democrat or Republican. In the 30 years we had on our board people that were Democrats and Republicans, and the reason was because money is green. It's in the middle. We've got to make that case as CDFIs that we're not in it for for ourselves. We're in it to be able to help, because one of people would say, well, why should I give you $1? Why should I donate to you when you are then now giving it to somebody else? And I say the difference between charity and philanthropy is this. Charity, you give somebody $1 so that they can be fed, because we all need to be fed, to be clothed, and to have shelter. We all do. But what if you also have a way to build that, so that you do, in philanthropy, you give the $1 and you're associating it with economic development, and it grows. And then therefore, we have customers now who donate back to LIIF Fund, because we were there at the very beginning when they had nothing, right? So that's the kind of, yes, there are challenges, but we've got to think of those green ideas, that the future. And actually, I just started a new tech company. I'm starting, it's called WebNeed, look us up. And what I'm doing now is helping small businesses get customers. Before it was access to credit, But what do they need to do? They have to find customers. And using technology and AI is the place to go. So sorry for the plug-in, but do look at us, WebNeed.
Awesome. And I work at a CDFI that focuses on real estate financing. So affordable housing, community facilities, early care and education. I'm wondering, what advice do you have that is applicable across our different forms of financing? I know you come from the microfinance field, but what advice to all of us here, next generation of leaders, that we can take with us from your career and that spans our different functions, different asset classes?
I would start by saying, really everything begins with relationships. And so across any of the different areas of capitalization that you're looking for, cultivating relationships that can expand into ultimately asks on the capital side, on the philanthropic side, will be very important. Accountability, Janie talked about the balance sheet, the financials. It is very, very important to be on top of one's finances in one's organization and to do the work. And that's hard if it's a brand new organization and it's just one employee and both of us have been in that experience. Then find somebody to help understand the finances. But really understanding how important it is to have clarity around the financial position of an organization, to be accountable for dollars, to build relationships. And Janie mentioned this earlier, to be a trustworthy source, following through on commitments, being true to the mission, being transparent, because all of that builds credibility, builds community trust. And even though there are different financing mechanisms that might be appropriate for the different kinds of programs you have, if starting from sort of ground zero, it's building relationships, financial acumen and knowledge, and transparency.
My advice would be to get on other nonprofit boards. Because to know your community, know the people that give to those organizations, and now all of a sudden they hadn't heard about your work, but now you're sharing what you're doing with other board members. Remember, who's on boards? People with money. So you go and sit on that board of a nonprofit, and you get to meet people that is, donating to them, and now guess what? They're going to be donating to you. So those relationships, as Ann talks about, is so important, and it's a great strategy that I've been using over the years. And even now, I sit on one paying board, a bank board in New York, and then I have 6 nonprofit boards that I still sit on, and do what we do, right? Because it's a way to be able to bring new ideas to people that had never heard of our industry.
That's great. Well, I think to wrap this conversation up, I'd like to turn us to an even broader vision of the future. We're here for Opportunity Next. We're thinking about careers meeting purpose, and have heard about the incredible purpose you have both brought to your careers. Let's vision together. What are we going to be celebrating at OFN 51 in 10 years? You guys do it too. Imagine it. Let's speak it to the universe.
Well, first of all, I hope I'm still alive. And second, that we have survived this time that we're in right now, and we can laugh about it because guess what? They didn't win, we won. And that we are, that you all, the young people in the room, have brought younger people with you that are experiencing what you're experiencing now. Maybe OFN will bring us back in 10 years and we can be on a panel as well, who knows?
Exactly, we'll be celebrating.
I love that, by the way. When I envision 10 years from now, I would love to envision massive scale and impact for our communities across the country. That every entrepreneur, every person in need of housing in rural communities, in urban areas, have access to capital, have access to hope and opportunity through any number of channels, and that one of those channels is a thriving, collaborative, synergistic, and efficient CDFI sector. I would love to see that.
I love it. I love it. And I'll share my vision as well. I'm thinking about 10 years from now, we're 2,000 people at this conference. Maybe it's 5,000 people because we've attracted that much more incredible talent. We're even more brilliant. I'm also thinking about the communities that I see regularly where I'm from and imagining a block transformed, imagining kids going to school in a place where there was a vacant lot, imagining people who are unhoused having housing and having access to all those things that we know we need to thrive across the country. I think that let's speak all of our visions into being, and I hope everyone else here has been imagining and dreaming of the future and that next opportunity that we're driving all together.
And wouldn't it be wonderful if 10 years from now, there are entrepreneurs from all of our portfolios who started with a microloan and are on the Fortune 500 list and are here on this stage making contributions and contributing.
Yeah. And I would like to add, too, that when I remember talking to Ann back in the early 90s, that, wouldn't it be great, Ann, if there was no need for our organizations?
Yeah.
But, and Ann spoke about that we thought we'd become self-sufficient within 5 years, right? And that didn't happen. And so when I think about 10 years from now, that's what I'm thinking, is how close are we getting to become scalable, as Ann said? How many people are we working with and affecting in their lives? And so that maybe one day there's not going to be a need for CDFIs, but I don't think so. I think there's always going to be a need because of the fact that we have people that come that are struggling that need what we offer, right? And so that's why we're here.
That's why we're here. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's been such a pleasure. Let's give them a round of applause.
And thank you to all of you.
Thanks for staying.
How about one more round of applause for the panelists? How about that?